Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. My name is Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, December 29th. This weekend we have upcoming UFC 219 in Las Vegas. Of course, the main event, a very interesting featherweight women's MMA bout between Holm and Cris Cyborg. And we're going to break down the 4 fights on the main card with our regular guest, Andreas Hale. Andreas Hale, thanks for being back with us one more time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with Holm and Cris Cyborg. Of course, we remember when Holm, of course, upset Ronda Rousey. That was a little bit different, though. A lot of astute observers knew before that fight that Rousey was an overrated fighter in general. A subpar striker with some significant flaws in her game. Here we have Cris Cyborg, not the same. Cyborg is just kind of a beast. People say that she's the closest thing that women's MMA has had to a Mike Tyson figure. And, she's a big favorite here, minus 360. But if anyone can get a legitimate win over Cyborg, it is Holm. A crafty veteran who always has a good game plan. She's been through it all. And right now the odds are plus 300. Obviously, Cyborg should be a big favorite here. So this is one of these tough, MMA title fight, bouts to handicap where you have a dominant fighter who should be a big favorite, and you're just not exactly sure how big of a favorite the champion should be. Right now, Cyborg minus 360, Holm on the other side plus 300. How much of a shot does Holm actually have to actually win this fight?
I would say maybe 25%. The interesting thing here is Holly's a counter striker by nature, and what she does is take advantage of people with striking deficiencies, like Ronda Rousey, for instance, and when they come in, she counters them, and she counters them very effectively. But that's what she does against people who aren't very well versed in Muay Thai or kickboxing, where Cyborg is a completely different beast. My biggest issue with Holm is she waits a lot. She's a fighter who likes to stand around and look and try to see what her opponent's doing before she counters. She did it against Raquel Pennington, and she nearly lost that fight. She did it against Miesha Tate, ended up getting choked out in the 5th round. She doesn't approach the fight as an attacker, which always puts her on her back foot. And against Cyborg, this is not a woman who you can just kind of wait to see what happens, because she is going to come at you and she's going to try to finish you, and she has the technique to do so. So Holly could catch her, but I think the size and I think the skill is just going to be a little bit too much for her to deal with. But it's possible. Nothing is impossible. It's MMA. We have small gloves here. Things could happen. But, I think that the odds are pretty spot on here.
Right.
If you like Holm to get a knockout, a surprising finish, I don't see her winning the fight any other way. The line justifies that. But otherwise, I'd stay away from this because I think Cyborg is just too good for this division.
Yeah, so if you think Holm has about a 25% chance of winning, and that would mean that you think that the current odds are almost dead on, which you did say. And yeah, you mentioned Holm's preferred fighting style, which made me maybe think that a shot with the over might be worth a play. But interestingly, despite the fact that it's a 5-round fight, the total is not 2.5 rounds, it's just 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 rounds, though, has gotten bet way up. When I first started handicapping this one, it was minus 245. Now it's up to minus 280. The under is plus 240. Obviously, I think that the fight is very likely to go over 1.5 rounds, but would I want to take it at minus 280? I just don't think so. There is a very real chance that there could be an early finish here, right, Andreas?
Yeah, I actually like the under here a lot. I mean, for the most part, Cyborg has finished all of her opponents in under 7.5 minutes. Tanya Evinger is the only person that she did in her last, I believe, 5 fights. And Tanya Evinger is tough as hell. Holm is not that mentally strong to deal with Cyborg. And I think the thing with Cyborg here is not only can she finish you on her feet, but her jiu-jitsu is supremely underrated. I think she's going to go for the finish here to make a statement. The Mike Tyson categorization is spot on. I think she may get Holly out of here in a round and a half. I don't think she wants to see her for 5 rounds. She may want to prove she can go the distance, but what's the point? I think she'll come at her quick, fast, and furious. Maybe that plays in Holly's hands if we get a finish in under 1.5 rounds on Holly's end, but I don't think this fight's going over 7.5 minutes.
Interesting analysis there, Andreas Hale. All right, so if we want to think about betting this fight, I think your recommendation would be to stay away from the side. If you want to take the under 1.5 rounds, that would be at plus 240. But Cyborg inside the distance is just minus 150, so you don't have to lay a minus 360 on Cyborg there. What would your recommended play be on this fight if you had to take one? And do you want to make it an official pick or just a lean?
It'll just be a lean, but it'll be the under here. I just think, the way the Cyborg has finished off a lot of opponents here, and nobody's as tough as Tanya Evinger, and she lasted 3 rounds. Everybody else is under 7.5 minutes. Holm, I don't think she's mentally as strong as a lot of these fighters. She takes advantage of fighters with striking deficiencies. Cyborg's not one of them. Once she gets hit with those shots, I think she'll wilt and fall apart. So I'm taking, I think Cyborg will win here, but I'm just going to look at the under at 1.5 rounds as a heavy lean.
All right. You are getting a massive underdog line there. Plus 240 on the under 1.5 rounds. And that might be worth a small shot. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. Edson Barboza and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov is, of course, a big favorite here, minus 240. I think we would say that Barboza has a striking edge, right? But Nurmagomedov is going to be hard to beat. I was thinking maybe the total on this one is not that high. It's scheduled for 3 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 120. It's gotten bet down a little bit. I was thinking maybe a shot with this fight going the distance at plus 110. Obviously, we could see a finish here, but Nurmagomedov, kind of a frustrating fighter in general to handicap. I could see this one going the distance and being a little bit more of a boring fight than people are expecting. I'm not sure that I'd want to take either. This is another fight where I think there's a big favorite where the lines are probably pretty close to dead on. You think there's any value here with either Nurmagomedov at minus 280 or Barboza on the other side at plus 240?
There's some shocking value with Edson Barboza here. Nurmagomedov is an excellent grappler, and he's an excellent wrestler, sambo fighter. But he has some tremendous striking deficiencies that haven't truly been exposed. If you look at Khabib's record over the past few years, he hasn't beat a fighter in the top 5. He's barely fought anybody in the top 10 aside from Michael Johnson, but he's undefeated, and he's shown some wicked ground and pound. The problem is you have to start the fight standing. Edson Barboza is an excellent striker. His leg kicks could get him in trouble here and could lead to a takedown, but there are ways that Edson Barboza could win this fight. I think he's a very sneaky underdog here, a very live dog, and I'm actually leaning heavily on Edson Barboza at the plus 245 mark. I think I like him a lot. You also have to take into consideration Khabib has struggled with weight. He hasn't been as active as some of the other fighters. So there could be a chance that Barboza catches him quick here, and crazier things have happened. But I like it for the line. If the line was even, obviously I'd take Khabib because I think he'd be able to take him down. But at plus 245, I like Edson Barboza. We might see a highlight reel finish here.
Yeah, I mean, with all of the controversies and uncertainties with Khabib, he is still undefeated. It's just hard to beat this guy, right? Or do you think that at some point he's going to get beat and it might come here?
It could come here. I think the level of competition is the issue here. I mean, we look at what Khabib has done over his career. Again, Michael Johnson actually hurt him a few times in that fight before Khabib finally dragged him to the canvas and finished him off. Other than that, if you look at Khabib's record, it's not all that impressive. Yes, he beat Rafael dos Anjos, but that is way before it's Rafael dos Anjos that became champion and has been running through the welterweight division. Everybody else is kind of routine guys that you expect him to beat. He's taken a pretty good step up in competition. Barboza's looked actually pretty good since beating Tony Ferguson. He beat Anthony Pettis. He had a highlight reel, maybe knockout of the year knee finish earlier this year. He has a distinct advantage here. Khabib's I think he'll get beat sooner or later. Not sure if the time is now, but at plus 245, I like it a lot.
So you see Nurmagomedov as significantly reduced from his sort of elite status that we thought of him and saw with him in 2014. Do you ever think he's going to regain that status, or do you think that he has some fundamental flaws as a fighter that where he's never going to return to his his sort of elite status in 2014?
Well, I think it's a matchup thing. I think the thing with Khabib is I want to see him against an elite striker, and that's what Edson Barboza is. There are not too many elite strikers in the lightweight division. Obviously, there is one named Conor McGregor, but even guys like Tony Ferguson aren't elite strikers. They like to take the fight to the mat, and that's where Khabib excels. That's why he's done so well. So I think this is a true litmus test to see where he's at with his striking against Edson Barboza. And that'll make things interesting. Barboza is actually a pretty solid ground game guy as well. So I don't know if Khabib he's truly elite on the ground, but I don't know if he's as well-rounded as people like to think he is, and he could get exposed.
And what's your take on my thought? It's not even a lean. It's a borderline lean on maybe taking a shot with this fight going the distance. Right now, it's at plus 110. The line has been getting bet the other way. So the market, at least recently, has been money coming in expecting a finish. But like you said, it's a little bit uncertain what we'll get from Khabib here. I think he's going to be a little bit careful, knowing that he's up against a tougher striker. What's your take on the likelihood of a finish inside 3 rounds?
It's tough. Khabib is a guy who, if he gets his hands on you, is going to finish you. And that means that Edson have to make a mistake, and you have to make a miscalculation, overcommit, and get taken to the ground. I'm not certain this thing could go the distance. I mean, Barboza could control the distance for 3 rounds, but against a sambo fighter like Khabib, that is very, very difficult. I, too, see this fight ending inside the distance. I just don't see either of these guys making it to the final bell. I figure that if Khabib does get his hands on Edson, he'll finish him. Otherwise, if Edson keeps the distance, he'll find a way to finish Khabib. I don't think these guys can make it over 15 minutes.
All right. So do you want to give an official pick here, or just recommend a lean? I'm going to find the odds right now for Barboza inside the distance. Barboza inside the distance plus 429. Is that worth a shot or not quite enough?
No, it's worth a shot. Again, if you got some money to throw at this fight, I would take it with the most value here. And I think Edson Barboza is a guy who can win by finish. It's not likely, given all of Khabib's attributes, but it's very, very possible. And we'll find out all we need to know about Khabib Nurmagomedov in this fight. I'm going to lean heavy on that Edson Barboza inside the distance. I think he's got the striking to finish him off, and if that's the only way, I think he can do it.
All right, but not an official pick.
Not an official pick.
Not an official pick. Okay, let's move on to another interesting fight with another big favorite in the same range, Carla Esparza and Cynthia Calvillo. And, Calvillo is, obviously, we see this all the time. Fighters that are favored by the UFC and other fighters who are like kind of spurned and hidden a little bit. And Carla Esparza is maybe getting a little bit malighted. She's had some nice results, some losses as well. But she's kind of getting hidden on cards and maybe getting a little bit disrespected. UFC clearly wants Esparza to lose this one. She could get a win, though. In line right now is a plus 200, and Cynthia on the other side, minus 240. There's another one where I was thinking about taking a shot with the over or with the fight going distance, but that also has gotten bet up, and the line is getting a little bit scary now. When I first handicapped it, the over 2.5 rounds, minus 185. It's now all the way up to minus 220. So, money coming in on the over, and I would agree with that. But as it gets up into the minus 200s, not sure if the value is still there. Another interesting fight with kind of tough odds to suss out betting value with. What's your take on this one, Andreas?
I think this is ridiculous. I think Carla Esparza being such a significant underdog is mind-blowing. She's the former champion. She's only struggled really with strikers. Cynthia Calvillo is not a striker. She's a wrestler and a grappler, and these are Carla Esparza's wheelhouses. For her to be a plus 200 underdog is a ton of disrespect. Clearly, like you said, the UFC wants to push Calvillo, but I think this is the wrong one to do it with. This is my lock pick for sure. I love Carla Esparza here. I think she's just too good on the ground. She's won jiu-jitsu tournaments, for Christ's sakes. She's an excellent wrestler. She beat Rose Namajunas. A lot of people forget about that. Yeah. I think she's a very live dog here, and I'm actually picking her to win this straight up. So I look at this at plus 200 as a gift.
Yeah, it's plus 200, and the market really expects this one to go the distance because Carla to win is plus 200. Carla to win by decision is just plus 250. So the market really not expecting a finish by Esparza. Is that overshooting it, or do you think that the only way she wins is by decision?
I mean, chances are it's by a decision. I mean, Esparza is not necessarily a finisher. She likes to control her opponents with her wrestling, and she neutralizes their grappling with her grappling. So I think she has all the tools to derail the Cynthia Calvillo hype train. I like Cynthia a lot. I think she's a great personality. I think the UFC's pushing her extremely hard, and they tend to do that sometimes. We've seen that with Paige Van Zant and Sage Northcutt. I think she's running into the wrong one here. A buzzsaw named Carla Esparza that's going to actually take her to the mat and school her here.
Yeah, Esparza by decision is plus 250. Esparza inside the distance plus 1255.
And I mean, I just don't see it happening. Anything's possible, but wow, that's a huge line. I just like Carla Esparza winning this fight by decision as my lock. Well, just winning one way or another as my lock here.
Right. And what do you think about just the fight going the distance at just minus 180? I mean, if the fight goes over, I think I'd rather take the fight going the distance at minus 180 than over 2.5 at minus 220. Again, that line is getting bet up, but maybe at minus 180 still worth a shot. What do you think, Andreas?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Calvillo, she does finish opponents, but again, Esparza is not somebody who gets finished on the ground. She gets finished by strikers. Yeah. So this is going to probably go the distance here. And at minus 180 might also be another gift here. I've seen worse lines on fighters that never finish opponents, and these two don't really finish people. I know Calvillo has, but not against accomplished grapplers. This thing is likely going the distance. So I do like it both ways. I like it Esparza winning, and I like this fight going the distance at minus 180.
All right, you want both of those to be official picks, Andreas?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Andreas Hale is going to take Carla Esparza to win at plus 200 and the fight to go the distance at minus 180. I will also take the fight going the distance at minus 180. And let me just ask you this, Andreas Hale. If you expect the fight to go the distance, and you know that the UFC really wants Esparza to lose and Calvillo to win here, does it make you nervous to take Esparza expecting that, you know, if she gets a win, it's going to have to be by decision, and there might be some, you know, you're going to have to, you know, funny business by the judges is not going to be something that you're going to have to worry about?
You know, I'm not too concerned. I think if Esparza, she can control the match. I mean, we've seen some wonky scorecards. I mean, Calvillo was just in a fight where people thought she lost.
Right.
So you never really know here. It's not. I can't get too concerned with the judges, and I know the UFC's trying to push her, but I think Esparza's going to win this one pretty handily, 2-1.
All right, I'm going to take the fight going the distance at -180 as an official pick. Andreas Hale also on that one, and he's taking Carla Esparza, big underdog line there at +200. Last fight on the main card that we're going to look at right now, another very interesting one, Carlos Condit against Neil Magny. Condit, of course, you know, returning from a long retirement. Some people questioning whether he should come back. Obviously, he's been losing a lot recently, taking a lot of a punishment in his career in general. But this is definitely a winnable fight for him. And, you know, if he comes in here sharp and focused, he should take this one. Magny is a decent opponent, but beatable. The line isn't that high for Condit at -160. I guess the big question here is what condition does Condit come in here after the layoff? If you think that he comes back roughly in top form, probably Condit at -160 is worth a shot, or not. What do you think, Andreas?
No, I think it definitely is. I think Carlos Condit, yes, he lost to Damian Maia, but Damian Maia is a jiu-jitsu practitioner who's just remarkable at what he does on the ground. He lost to Robbie Lawler, but that was a split decision. A lot of people saw it going both ways. In some cases, guys need time off to recharge their battery. Carlos Condit is one of those guys. And I think Neil Magny is the perfect opponent for him. He's not a devastating striker. He has solid jiu-jitsu, but it's not the level of Damian Maia. This is the perfect fight for Carlos Condit to get back in the win column. He could even finish Neil Magny here. I like the line for Carlos Condit. I'm actually picking this as a lock. I didn't before, but the more I've been thinking about it, the more I've looked at Neil Magny's recent fights. He got trucked by Rafael dos Anjos recently. I think Carlos Condit, you know, looking at him this week during his interviews, he seems focused. He seems like he's here to make a statement in the division all over again. I like him here to probably finish Magny, but I'm going to take Carlos, you know, either way, one way or another by decision.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, everything I was reading and even some interviews that I saw with him, he seemed like he's in a pretty good mindset. It seems like, you know, as far as long-term, his return, I don't know about that. He might have some ugly losses in the future, but as of right now, it seems like you said, he recharged his battery. He was like conscious of that's why he did it. It was self-imposed, and feels like he's in a good mindset in general right now. Would you agree with that analysis?
Absolutely, absolutely. He's had a lot of wear and tear. He's been in a lot of wars. The Robbie Lawler fight was a war, for instance, and losing to Damian Maia kind of sucked for him because I know he wanted to get another shot at the title. But I think he's back. I wouldn't say he's better than ever, but I think he's back in the right frame of mind to get a big victory here, and he just needed it. And Neil Magny, again, he's the right opponent. He's long, he's rangy, but he's not particularly dangerous. And I think those are all the things that make Carlos Condit a pretty significant favorite here at around -155. It's an easy bet for me. I like Carlos Condit.
Okay, that's what I was thinking as well. The line right now at 5 dimes is -160, so I'll make that one an official pick here, and Andreas Hale also making that one an official pick as well. So that's it for the main card. Once again, I have 2 plays, the Carla Esparza fight going the distance at -180 and Carlos Condit to get a win at -160. Those are also both official picks from Andreas Hale, and he has also thrown on Carla Esparza to get the win at +200. The big Holm fight against Cris Cyborg, very interesting to see how it turns out. But that's going to be a pass as far as a bet is concerned for both myself and Andreas Hale. Andreas, thanks so much. Talk to you again very soon.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.